Welcome to episode 21 of Chats. I'm Corbin.
I'm Sarah.
And today we're talking about how the world will look, feel, and act after COVID-19. We have a couple of things to talk about in this regard. We both have a little bit of a list.
Because we're going to get out of this eventually.
Yes. Yeah. This is...
It just feels like it's going to last forever.
This is only temporary. So I'll let you go first, ladies first.
Okay. The first thing I thought of was, for a lot of us, this has impacted our jobs or our workplaces. Mm-hmm. So the obvious thing for me is that I think there's going to be more employers that are going to embrace having staff work from home. And I know that's been a trend over the last couple of years, that there have been more employers allowing, either flex time or work from home arrangements. Certainly not in the work that I do. This is something very new. Excuse me. But I can see how this is going to be something that, in the future, it could impact how big a business is. Like if it's something where they can cut down office space because they don't need as many people in the office if they're going to work from home. I think this is also going to impact the technology and how we use it around meetings. Because, you and I talked about this last week about if I said Zoom once, I said it 30 times last week in trying to arrange meetings with people. And I think that really helps as far as understanding that, we do still have to connect and get together and have opportunities to bounce ideas off each other, but it doesn't necessarily have to be face-to-face. And especially if we are working from home and we're more separate from each other, then it's definitely going to make a difference to embrace a technology that allows us to still see each other without having to be physically in the same place.
Yeah.
So I think that's something for sure. The third thing I have under employment, there's a lot more, but just the ones that came up to me, was the value of people and who have the jobs that are being valued right now. Like, we referenced last week.
Responders and such.
Well, not even just that, because those are the ones that you assume. Like, it's going to be the police, it's going to be our medical community who are doing an outstanding job. And I cannot even imagine what it's like to be in that position where you're going into a job where there's an inherent danger, and you have to protect yourself and isolate yourself from your family to make sure you don't make them sick either. That's just beyond. But for people, people didn't realize that things like cleaners were going to be...
janitors.
Custodial staff, that those people were going to be pivotal. Grocery employees, truck drivers.
Pharmacies.
Yeah.
All those frontline people that are frontline but aren't thought about when you say frontline people.
Yeah,
don't think
and they're the ones that keep things moving forward, because for all the talk about, well, let's have a complete shutdown, well, that would bring about panic. And because people would suddenly be, well, now I can't get my medication, or I can't access the grocery store, and I didn't prepare ahead of time for this. So I think that to a certain degree, too, is going to really change people's view on what, I'm using finger quotes here, like an honorable or a coveted type job in these types of a reverent type of job for people when they look at what kind of jobs are needed and what kind of people are keeping the lights on when the rest of us can kind of go into hiding. Yeah. Do you have anything under employment or jobs or things that you see changing?
It's like a little bit of a different trail, but it goes in hand in hand with what you said about employment and meetings. I think the education system will feel this. We've already, as you said, there's been online classes and stuff. They've made it mandatory now for a lot of high school students to
complete the year,
to complete their high school years with at least one or two online classes. But I think if done right, with schools now doing online classes, I think that will either be a really big push for it or to steer away from it. But I feel it's going to be more so going to
advance it.
Yeah, advance.
I don't think so. I think people want to see it work. And here in Ontario, we've had labor action with our secondary school teachers with regards to online courses. But I think because of the nature of this province and how hard it is for people to get internet. Like, we're lucky in our house that we've got a
Yeah.
very good internet connection, unlimited bandwidth. Like, we're set up very well. That's not the norm.
No.
That's not for a lot of people. So, for someone like you, if you were still in high school to go back and try to do your courses, you'd be set.
Yeah. That's a very...
But I'm even thinking of your cousins who live outside
yeah.
of town.
They
who
have
don't
Wi-Fi, but not the best signal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not a strong internet connection. So, you could be halfway through your course of study and the internet goes down or pooches out for 15 or 20 minutes. You could maybe have to start from the beginning all over again. So
The way...
it's just a different perspective.
Yeah.
We don't have to agree on
Well,
that.
the way that I was seeing it more so was they would do it in school. Because that's what they're doing already with the online classes. I didn't think about it from home, though. That's a good
okay.
point. But
I
I
just assumed that's what you meant was at home.
Sorry, no. Just in general, I meant that there will be more online classes, probably, because they have to adapt to the classes that maybe don't have online accommodations right now. So now that they make them accommodate to the online, they're there to use. I could see them using that in the
More.
future. Yeah.
Yeah. The next category I had was commerce, shopping, that type of thing. And I'll start with grocery stores just because that's the one that's still functioning right now. When everything first started happening, the headlines were all about people hoarding toilet paper, and we kind of laughed about it at the time. And I think that's because it wasn't a problem for us in our house. And I come from a long line. Well, I shouldn't say a long line. I know my mother for sure, and my sister for sure. Have been the type of women that if something's on sale, you grab a couple of them. You make sure that you have a couple.
Yeah.
And there've been very few times that we've run out of something. If we run out of something, it's because I've not been told that we're running low. Usually it's a case of the ketchup, for a good example. Oh, we're out of ketchup. Oh, well, I finished it yesterday and I didn't tell you and you grocery shop today. Whatever. But for the most part, we usually have 2 and sometimes 3 of just about anything in the house that you need or something that's consumed in a regular fashion. And I think that's not the norm. I think for a lot of people it's I grab toilet paper every other week and we have what we need in the house, and that could be a storage thing, that could be just a presence of mind thing. But I can see now for a lot of people, the ones that are doing okay, and I lump us in that group because I feel we're doing okay, are those that are that are kind of stockpilers. I'm not going to use the word hoarding. I wouldn't call what we do hoarding. No. I don't think we have more than what we could ever use.
No, it's being prepared.
I think it's kind of like I don't want to have to buy it every week. Therefore, I have enough to do me for a month.
Yeah.
Or a month and a bit, depending on, again, how often it's being used.
Some people were getting enough for almost a year, arguably. How many? It was crazy.
Depending on how many people you have in your house. And that's a tough one. The other thing I'm seeing, so I can see people being more prepared. I think people will look at this and say, God, I've never had to worry about, how many cans of soup I have. And now this has happened and I know that I want to be able to have more soup,
Yeah, and I know with a lot of younger generation people who live on their own, maybe, they are very much so last minute type shoppers or consumers. So this will very well be a bit of a wake-up call for them because, as you said, we are usually prepared.
Well, and then there's some people that especially if you don't have a lot of storage, you go to the grocery store a couple times a week.
Yes.
And you have to. Or if you want fresh produce, depending on the quality of produce or vegetable or meats, that type of thing, that your supermarket has, you sometimes have to go more regularly to get the freshest food. Again, we don't have that problem here. Our stores are fairly well stocked, and you know about that from working at one of them. But I do think that that's going to change people's philosophy. And again, because we live in a rural community, we have power outages from time to time. So I don't think it's as much of an issue in this area of the province. But for people who are in a more urban center, who maybe are used to having the convenience of being able to go out and pick up whenever they need to, this might change their perspective on how they shop.
Yes. No, I'd agree with that.
The other commerce topic for me was I've been noticing online, just because every time you shop somewhere, can we get your email address and we'll send you promotions? So my phone, I would say the lion's share of emails that I'm getting are promotional emails from retailers, whether it's shoes, clothes, crafts, anything from Marks to Michaels,
stuff.
right?
Yeah.
But it's things like, we've just launched our spring line, and this was just before everything hit the fan a couple weeks ago. And I was so excited because I was so excited about like spring clothes and getting out the dark stuff and short sleeves and shorts. And anyway, it doesn't take much to get me excited anymore. But to be able to say, oh, we've got some beautiful spring clothes coming out. And actually, since we're in the closet, if you look up there on the right-hand side, see that light-colored blouse that has the... back up a little bit.
This one.
That one? That was what I was going to wear for Easter.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
It's an Eastery.
Yeah, so it's kind of springy, summery, and it's the only thing I bought. It was just a case of I saw it and I thought, oh, that speaks to me as a very, springy,
it caught your
bright.
eye.
Yeah, and I thought, oh, that'd be pretty. So there it is. I think the tags are even still on it because I haven't gotten around to taking the tags off. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is these lines were coming in right when everything started turning, and now I literally had an email. I think it was last night. No, maybe the night before, from Le Chateau.
Oh, you told me this.
Yeah, and they had things like, they had dresses on that were regularly priced for $150 that were on sale for $80.
Yeah, it was
like
crazy.
$79.99.
They're practically giving it away.
Well, and some people are saying, well, and it's still a lot of money at $80, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But that's just one example how in the course of 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, but 2 weeks for sure, everybody's gone, holy shit,
Yeah, and
we got to unload this stuff.
And Le Chateau isn't a very on sale, to that extent type
they're
store.
Not, excuse me, they're not a bargain basement kind of.
No.
They're certainly fancier stores, but Le Chateau, I think, would be kind of your mid to upper range mall clothing shopping experience, right? And same with things that I'm seeing, shoes and jeans, stuff like that. Stuff that's coming in that is like summer or spring weight. And I can just imagine what it must be like to be in promotions for these companies, because all the malls are closed down right now. And the inventory is still coming in. So you're going to have stock that you have to move. Nobody is doing anything. Like I'm literally, right now I'm wearing, these are like my grubby jeans. They're not dirty. They're just, I'm not going to wear nice jeans. So I'm just working around the house. And I got a hoodie. And I've been wearing this variation for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm not worrying about wearing anything remotely work-like or dressy unless I have to do something that requires a photo of me for work or what have you. This is what I'm living in. So the last thing I'm looking at, especially with financials being as they are, and again, coming from a place where we're blessed enough to be somewhat stable in our employment, we're not looking to buy clothes right now. That's not a concern. No. So I can't imagine people that their situation is a little more precarious or uncertain. They're certainly not looking.
No, they're not paying attention even to those emails or anything like that.
Well, yeah. And to be honest, I'm not either. I'm just going through and delete. The only thing that catches my eye is Amazon. And I'm very torn when it comes to shopping on Amazon.
Love, hate.
It really is, because I prefer to shop local and source things locally. However, there's been a couple of things where I know I can only get that on Amazon right now without me driving to a city to get it, and I'm not driving out of town. I'm just not. So I can see where I think people are going to realize during this time, I actually got by without buying any new spring clothes, or not as many spring clothes.
Yeah.
So I don't have to shop as much as I did, or maybe the reverse will happen. Maybe we'll all come out of this and we'll go, oh my God, and just...
I think it'll be like a quick little spurt of that where everyone wants to go out and goes crazy. But then once they realize, the money's not quite there, and also, everyone's going to be hurting after this. So I think the people who will splurge.
Yeah.
And then they'll fade out, and then it'll be kind of a drought gray area for a bit. That's what I think. So
I know that a lot of suggestions for supporting small businesses right now is to buy a gift certificate. So hopefully those, people will take advantage of that and support those businesses so that it can help sustain them a little bit.
Yeah.
But at some point, all those are going to have to be cashed in too. So you're making the money now, but you won't be making that income in a year or whenever it's redeemed, right? So it's a challenge for sure.
Yeah. Are you done
there?
No,
I'm that's all my points for commerce.
I have one that's kind of similar and it ties into that. The fast food industry right now has kind of had to adapt very quickly, and we're seeing it even in commercials right now, where Tim Hortons is saying, our mobile app is here to serve you. They're not.
And they all have their gloves on in that commercial.
Yes.
I'm going to don't get too much into the commercials because I've got that coming up.
I want to talk about commercials,
okay.
But I was just getting to the point where I think things are going to be changed a lot with this, because people do like the dining aspect of restaurants. But I think the amount of people who have the, Dinner Dash or DoorDash, whatever it is, or the Uber Eats.
Uber Eats in those places.
They're
yeah.
going to be exploding right now. They're going to be something I feel in the long run will be something more used than where they used to be. I feel like they're doing quite a great deal off of this.
Right.
But
they're certainly capitalizing on the opportunity.
Yeah. And another thing that kind of ties into that is, and also like respecting people more now than we maybe did previous, is tips. I think people will not only be tipping the DoorDash people, but also restaurant employees more, because
more generous.
Yeah, more generous. I think, because it's kind of like one of those things where after a disaster, everyone's very nice to each other. Everyone's very appreciative. And I think that's where it's, especially right now, where people are saying kind of like the buy gift certificates.
Yeah.
It's help these people out who this may be their only job.
Minimum wage jobs. These are a lot of times they're students or people that have to work multiple jobs.
Yeah, people with families and such.
Yep.
Give them a little extra than you usually would. And I think that, like many things, will trickle out after COVID-19. So that's something to look out for, and people who invested in things like Uber Eats right now are probably rolling in it.
Yeah.
Yes, and as you mentioned earlier, Zoom, which is a web interface where you can call people, kind of like Skype. Those things are probably rolling in cash right now as well. So so without going too far into commercials and stuff, that's where I'll leave the food aspect of it.
I've got another topic that I know you'll like, which is entertainment.
Yes, I was going to save that for later.
Oh,
you can go for it now.
Because I know we've talked about there's some movies that have been delayed.
I think almost every release for the next 2 months. Or
I've heard some stuff that even in the fall, because the stuff gets pushed into the fall, then that stuff gets pushed.
And a lot of the studios are just kind of hedging their bets with them, but there eventually will be moved, I feel, for the rest of the year.
But I think even how people look at entertainment, because you look at what's being utilized right now.
Yeah.
Netflix and streaming platforms are just... There was actually a notification by Netflix saying that they were downgrading the quality of the viewing experience because they had such demand for the service.
Wow.
Yeah. They were reducing bandwidth because otherwise they were, and I noticed last week with the internet, it was glitchy.
Yeah.
Just stuff was not running as smoothly as it normally would. So I just wonder how many people are going to look at this, because I know for us, we don't live near a movie theater. It's a bit of an excursion for us to go to a movie. I see one of two things happening. I think it's either going to be everybody goes exactly what we said about shopping. I'm going to go to every movie theater. I'm going to order all the popcorn. I want to see it on a big screen. I just got to get it in my living room.
Yeah.
Or, more like me, is going to be, you know what? I'm okay with watching movies in my pajamas.
Yeah.
And we were already going in that direction anyway, so I can see that could be even more. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Because the thing is that a lot of movies that were either in theaters or going to be released like a couple days before everything got shut down have now been moved to streaming.
Yeah.
And
Disney Plus launched at just the right time.
Oh, yeah. So if it was up to me, the only reason I would want to go to theaters is because of all these new movies and it's new media.
Yeah.
But if we could have them here...
And you have the income that...
Yes. But if we could have them here, in your own home, like how it is now, I could see that quickly taking over. And I think a lot of... movie theaters aren't going to be happy about this at all.
No.
Because this could, as you said, it's been talked about for a while, the death of movie theaters, but this could be, the final nail in the coffin for them, which hopefully not.
It'll be interesting to see how long it takes for them to get a read on what their new reality is. Is it going to be a case of we're not even going to open up all of our locations? Is it a case of we're going to reduce the number of screens in each location? Because some of them, we've been in some of the bigger ones where there's 10 and 12 screens in one
Theater.
venue.
Yeah.
So is it a case of you bite the bullet? They've shut down now for obvious reasons, but you bite the bullet for 6 months to a year and see if your crowds come back? I don't know. I'm not sure what that looks like.
Well, and that's the thing, is that even when the virus is over, like many things, I think, but especially theaters where you are in there for so long and it's very, hands on with the popcorn and stuff like that, I don't think a lot of people will be running out to go see movies right away. So that's why theater or movie studios are pushing them back so far, because A, they don't know how long they'll go, and B, even after the initial, last person, they will
give it some time
because they don't want to waste even more money than they already have.
Shutdown,
yeah. So the entertainment industry is the most expendable, we've found, with sports, actors and such, and people are starting to see that now, which is not good for them, but it's good for the people who are getting recognition in their place, which is the frontline workers and the essential workers and such.
And as an extension of that, I find it interesting, and I know we kind of touched on this last week with the online concerts and how people are getting creative, and things like that. And I actually have a high note to end this episode with.
I have a feeling I know what it is.
Okay, we'll tie it in. Okay. We won't jump it there, but just as an extension of that, to say people are getting creative, and people are being exposed to things like symphonies who are doing things in a creative online collaborative way, so people who've never listened to anything from a symphony before are hearing the musicians performing. Obviously it's not the same experience, but if you've never known what you were missing, this might give you the opportunity to try something out, and now moving forward you'll think about going and getting tickets someday or watching it. But
becoming fans of things, trying new things, and some state of boredom that some people are in. So.
So is that everything for entertainment then?
Yeah, for the most part, I think. Other than it's entertaining to see, as you said, some of the people very creatively around the world finding ways to be social while distancing, like the bingo. Yeah. We saw, I think it was in Canada or
the seniors.
Yeah, where they're
that's so cute.
Where they're all on their individual balconies, and one person is in the courtyard.
Oh, I saw a different one.
Oh, well,
okay. You tell yours.
Well, they're in the courtyard and they're playing bingo, and it's funny because elderly can't hear well to begin with. And the one lady's trying to figure out what the guy said.
Oh, geez.
So they're yelling back and forth. But it worked out, they said. But what was yours?
The one I saw was actually in a nursing home, and they had the grannies and the grandpas all sitting in the doorways of their rooms.
Oh.
With their little, like a little table on like a TV table. And then the person at the end of the hallway was the caller.
Oh.
So they yell it down the hall, and everybody was sitting, so they weren't coming out of their rooms and being in a group, but they were able to talk across the hall from each other, and I thought that was super sweet. It's interesting how people are trying, like exactly what you said, getting creative. One thing, and I don't know if it fits into anything else, but I think an extension of entertainment and going out and stuff like that, I think people are going to be much more aware of germs. I think people are going to want less contact in some regards. Like, don't touch me. Just, I'll get it from a machine, or I'll dispense it myself. I wonder how that'll impact jobs.
Yes. And I was going to bring that up as well, as just more cleaning. Like, how, as I said a while ago on the podcast, I don't know what episode it was, or what, I think it was Pet Peeves, where I said, I find it to be a pet peeve when places have bathroom cleaning sheets, and they sign them off, but they didn't check it 5 minutes ago when they said they did.
They just walked in, scribbled, and left.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a huge, not just a point for the employer, but a huge selling point. I think companies might even say,
check our rate or our frequency of cleaning this facility.
I think they, especially for this foreseeable future, not the long distance future, but for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
I think for this whole generation, that will be something that sticks with them, just like how the previous generation, it kind of the war and stuff like that stuck with them. Mm-hmm. So,
well, I know a lot of people said about, I have always taken wet wipes and wiped down my grocery cart. It never occurred to me. And that sounds stupid now, but it never occurred to me. I would always gel my hands after I had shopped.
Yeah.
But it never occurred to me to take a sanitary wipe, or bacterial wipe, sorry, and to clean off the cart. And maybe that's because I'm so in my zone and I didn't want to look at other people, so I don't acknowledge what other people are doing to their carts to prompt that concern. But
Well, and even thinking about when I worked there at grocery stores, like, you don't think about that. You're dealing with, hundreds of carts a day sometimes. If
you're
you're working
touching
a full
all the
day,
carts. Yeah.
you're touching the product, you're touching,
Yeah.
you're cleaning up the messes and such. And I'm obviously not touching my face and stuff like that, but that sticks around for quite some time if it's not taken care of quite quickly.
Yeah.
So.
Alrighty, the next topic I have is relationships. I thought this would be a good one for you to relate to
Yes.
because you are dating. Well, I shouldn't say dating. You are in a relationship.
Yeah.
But
You're in a relationship too.
Not like yours. But the reason I brought this up was I actually saw something online where this guy, and I'm sure more people have seen this, but this guy who's in his apartment and he looks out across the rooftops and you see this really cute girl, the one I'm talking about, and she's his quarantine cutie, and he starts communicating with her and he sends a drone over with his phone number and they start talking, and then he actually went out like Bubble Boy. Did you see the next one where he actually takes plastic and makes a bubble?
No, I didn't see that. I saw the final one where they have dinner.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
No?
I will have to check that out.
Because it was originally on TikTok that he did it, I believe.
Yes.
And I saw the last one. So I didn't see the first one until you shared it on Facebook, I believe.
Yeah, there's that one. And then I think the second one was he actually put himself in a bubble and duct taped it and used some kind of device to inflate it and then walked it over across the road, and he had flowers. And then, of course, he realized he can't give her the flowers, so they walked up and down the street like touching hands through the side of the bubble, like her on the outside, him on the inside. And they even came across some police officers and they all had their picture taken with this guy, and like it's very cute. And I know that's an extreme, but I think that says something to people. Like, normally this guy would probably be on the road working,
too busy to look out the window.
Would never even look out the window. And here it could be his soulmate, and she was outside doing something for a TikTok or practicing a dance for TikTok.
Yeah, because she was on the roof of her building.
Yes, she was right across the street. And here they're connecting. Now, it could just be a ploy. It could just be something that's, only going to last certain long.
Or maybe he already knew her and it's trying to...
Perhaps, but I do think it gives a certain perspective on when you're so busy, you don't often see what's right in front of you, or you don't appreciate what could be right next door. And I thought that was just a really interesting dynamic. And maybe you can explain how you've been dealing with dating, because of course, not being able to go back and forth as much as you would normally, like, because you were pretty regular on Friday and Saturdays and sometimes Sundays for doing stuff.
Well, and I wouldn't say it's been difficult, but I have made lapses of judgment where I've seen her since, but that we now fully realize that can't happen because of the seriousness of the COVID-19 virus. But it's one of those.
How have you been able to connect?
Well,
it's more what I'm looking for.
Well, that's what I was going to get to, is that it's been hard because ever since the virus has really started, her Wi-Fi has been down, so she can't FaceTime, she can't really do any of that sort of stuff. So it's been texting, and even then it's been very on and off because just she's in one of the essential services right now too, just so people understand. So she's still working. Yeah. And that's a strain, and that's stressful for her too. And again, how often you're able to connect because of that, right? Yeah. But it's one of those things where, just taking it day by day, and
you can still call her too,
But yeah, just keeping positive and making sure that there's no more lapses in judgment.
Well, and it's one of those things where you don't think it's serious, and then you realize, oh wow, it actually applies to us. Like we're talking about us. So
and I would say that it hit us that this is an event that it's not your parents saying, oh, don't stay up late and go to parties. This is something that no one's ever dealt with. Like, even your parents have not dealt with something to this magnitude. No. So usually something that some people might blow off, not me, I don't go to parties, but it's not something that you should blow off, or that most people would just blow off being a teen.
It's not meant to be an inconvenience.
No.
It's a very serious thing that like we were talking about it the other night, where none of us have a social life right now. None of us are having fun as far as like going out and doing stuff that we would choose to do. We're trying to make the best of it, and I don't think we're not hurting. I would say we're certainly on good footing there. We could do a whole podcast on the Tiger King right about now, but we'll leave that for another day. But that's what I mean is I think this is going to be an interesting time to see how people look at the circumstance of dating too. And it's like, I don't think people in your generation are used to making sacrifices.
No.
I think for the most part, it's a case of, if I want to talk to her, I'll talk to her right now. Or if I want to see him, I'm going to see him right now. And there's a way to do it because of the technology.
It's have the cake and eat it too mentality.
Yeah. And that's not been the case necessarily for previous generations. Like, for me, when I was dating, it would be like Friday night and or Saturday night, but it wouldn't be like in constant contact all week long, and then weekends and all that stuff. So I'm wondering how this could change things. It could be a case, one or the other situations where it either reinforces more ongoing contact because everybody's bored and now we're used to having like mainlining a relationship, or it could be, there are bigger things out there, and sometimes, being able to spend 10 or 15 minutes picking out emojis to each other just isn't practical.
No.
But
yeah, and once again, it makes people get creative as we going back to the story
it's
that you shared.
It's a bit of a theme that I think we're seeing here.
But finishing off the last video, you should see it because it's quite nice.
I'll have to check that out.
Very creative.
So moving from relationships into weddings, which have been tremendously impacted as a result of the shutdowns and physical distancing that's taken place right now. Again, we're actually late taping this. This is Monday night this week. And I know as of this past weekend, it was announced that weddings are not permitted right now. You're not allowed to have a wedding as far as in a public place or having it at a venue, that type of thing. I think there are ways to do it, and don't quote me on this, but I do believe there are things that you can arrange. No, you can't, because you can't get into to get a marriage certificate right now. No. So everything's on hold with that. And unless someone wants to tell us that there's a way to get a marriage certificate and get that done with an officiant, but I think that the outcome of this, people are going to, because we've had such a run of big weddings that are huge productions, and it's not so much about the marriage, it's about the day and everybody. The scale. Yeah, and everybody pulling out all the stops to make this a huge, showcase. And I think that people are there's people that are like devastated that they can't have their wedding. There's people that before things completely shut down said, I don't care that we're not going to have 200 people at our wedding. This date means something to us. We want to be together. We're going to go to the courthouse, and they did it that way. Yeah. So I think there's going to be a shift when it comes to weddings where I think because of the cost, I think people are going to realize, wait a minute, you can actually get married much cheaper.
Yeah. And what's important about the wedding.
And I think that's the crucial thing is are we focusing on one day, and are we spending tens of thousands of dollars for one day? Mm-hmm. Or are we able to take that money or just not go into debt, because that happens too. And put that towards our future, toward a house, toward maybe a once-in-a-lifetime honeymoon travel experience or whatever. Yeah. But I can see that because you've got people who are now forced to delay, that you're going to have a review of these costs and why we're doing it. And, if one of the people in the relationship is more focused on it has to be a production, the other person's saying, you know what, I'm seeing other people doing this, and it doesn't have to be, the Oscars. So really don't need to put that kind of emphasis on it. Yeah. But
there's been some people, I believe, in Spain or Italy that were, or even the States now, because they're under lockdown in a lot of states, where they've gone ahead and said, screw it, we're having the wedding and we're having all the people who were invited.
If it's the one I saw, it was Staten Island.
Yeah, and they were all arrested
Staten Island.
Yeah, they were all arrested.
And they swore at the cops as they came out of the church because the cops were waiting for them.
And
it's like, boy, classy.
And that's not the way you want to remember the day. That's not at all how you want to think of the day going. So it's just one of those things where I think there's going to be a big boom of weddings as well, because a lot of people, once the quarantine's over, who have either missed their weddings or have their weddings scheduled for around the time that quarantine's over, everyone's just going to get, they want to get it tied the knot, and I think that will happen quite a bit.
And I think for people that were considering getting married, if you can put up with your significant other through a quarantine and you still like that person, you should lock that down.
There you go. You should renew your vows with Dad.
There you go. We'll have to see about that. Right now they're talking we're locked up until, midsummer, so we'll see how that goes. Any other thoughts about weddings? Are you ready to move on to... This is my last topic coming up.
Okay. No, I'm good with weddings. I think I've said my piece about that.
Okay. So the final thing, and this is something that I mentioned pretty early on in this experience, was it'll be interesting to see how advertising addresses this, how responsive advertisers are to a quarantine and a pandemic.
Yeah, marketing people and marketing suits are very clever people.
Yeah. Well, and it's revenue that it's like if you can find an angle that speaks to it, that is on message, that has the right tone. Mm-hmm. You've got an opportunity right now, and that's the first one we saw was the Ford commercial.
Yeah.
And they are not advertising a truck.
No, not a
new... to get it right, like they do have trucks in the commercial.
Yeah, but it's not the 2021
No, they're not
Ford.
promoting a vehicle or a model. They were showing, in one scene, you see a family that's gotten out of their vehicle and entering their house. And in the other one, I think, was just a single person driving in their vehicle. It looked construction-y, but not overtly.
Yeah,
like it was
not usual.
Generic construction,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And I thought that's interesting because the messaging was about dealing with the debt, as far as addressing your payments. If you have concerns, if you are in a situation that you are stressed about your obligation to pay for your vehicle, contact us. I thought, you know what? I've only had one Ford in my life, and it was the Mustang.
Yeah.
But I was impressed by that.
Especially for being the first one that we've seen. And we've been keeping an eye on the television with all the updates.
I haven't seen any others, to be honest.
Other than Tim Hortons, which we spoke about earlier.
I think it's car manufacturers.
Oh,
I haven't seen any other car manufacturer address that, which I think, good on them.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of ads usually being pulled for things like non-essential services that, as an example.
They might as well save their money.
Yeah. And they don't want to be in bad taste either.
Yes,
right?
looking inappropriate. Mm-hmm. Well, and to that... like you say, the adaptability of Tim Hortons was very well done because, again, they're still out there. And
they're having it on the radio, television, anywhere anyone would listen.
But again, low-key music, showing someone wearing gloves, shows their people working in the workplace separately.
And safely, yeah.
And they don't show any crowds of people.
No.
And they're only showing drive-through.
Yeah.
The only time they show in the restaurant is when they're showing the people working. They don't show customers at a till.
No. I couldn't remember if that was the case, but I was fairly certain it was drive-through only.
Drive-through only. They show them reaching through the window. And then the final one that I thought, how clever, because literally no one is traveling right now. And if you have followed the Captain Obvious campaign with Hotels.com,
no.
Hotels.com is a search platform, so if you're looking for the cheapest hotel, it's one of those. There's a lot of them. There's Trivago and a number of them out there. Booking.com. You can use these search engines to find economical hotel rooms. But Hotels.com has a character called Captain Obvious, who for the most part is an obnoxious individual dressed in a overtly caricatured captain's outfit. So now when you see the Hotels.com commercial, it's a simple white background, and this individual, Captain Obvious, sitting on a chair, just eating popcorn, and it's the logo just off of him. They've got him in the right third of the frame, the third third of the frame, and they've just got the Hotels.com logo, and then it says, "Just stay home."
How long do they hold on that for?
Oh, it's about like a good 10-second, 15-second spot where he's grabbing his popcorn. He's kind of adjusting himself in the chair, and it shows the logo, and it just, it sees him like settling into his chair, and he eats some popcorn.
Yeah.
And then it just shows stay at home. It's like, oh, brilliant, because that's unique and catchy,
and
on
quick.
message. Yes. And they probably already have their advertising buy for the year. So they're like, you know what?
Yeah.
We want to keep our brand out there. So find a way to keep it out there in context, and so that we can ride this out. Because I can guarantee you, I'm not thinking of Trivago or any of the other ones because they're not promoting, but Hotels.com is. So
and you're not buying a trip right now, but you're still thinking about it.
But it's memorable. Exactly the point. So I think that has been interesting. And I think moving forward, you're going to have advertisers look at, I mean, that's just a couple. And if anybody else has seen ads that they think are noteworthy that we should be talking about, or conversely, ones that are inappropriate, that are tone deaf, I'd love to see those or hear about those too. But I think for the most part, I think people have been ready for the bounce and have been on some clever messaging, in particular with those 2 or 3 different advertisers.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that they've handled it very well, and they've handled it very quickly.
Yes,
because
the turnaround.
I feel like a lot of ads or companies that don't have ads right now are quickly trying to scramble to figure out how can we make this ad with, the band 10 people or less, or all this stuff. So I think,
or is it worth re-advertising and changing up a campaign that you're ready to launch for the spring summer if this is only going to go on for 2 weeks and we're all going back to work April 6th, which, in case everyone at home was wondering, you're not going back to work April 6th. So that's, so I think that's a fair enough thing to see. I think we'll see more of it. Yeah. And that'll be interesting to see how they interpret it.
And the last thing that I was going to touch on was the environment, because there's been huge articles being released about how carbon emissions and global warming,
the ozone layer.
You can see how on a video that they've released, how they're just shrinking, not gone.
It's like a geothermal image, and they show the pollution rates over China.
And they show how red is bad, yellow is still bad, but not as bad as red. And that, it's the green, red, yellow system. Yeah. And the red is gone, and the yellow starts to shrink a little bit. So it's not gone completely. It's not where
you see an actual reduction.
Yes.
It's a notable reduction in pollution.
And even they showed over in Canada and U.S., there is a bit of a change there within only a few weeks. Mm-hmm. So I think that's going to be a big push. And Justin Trudeau on the news just recently said that he's still investing in the initiative for green space fighting against pollution and stuff like that, because right now they're trying to figure out where they're going to spend their money, where's essential places to put their money towards. Yeah. And he said this is still an essential issue to us in the world. So I think it's going to be one of those things where by the end of this, by the time that we're all back, like the world is back to where we all go to work and such, I think people will see the difference. Yeah. And that will be another wake-up call. And hopefully it's the wake-up call that the world needs. But
I saw, and I think I mentioned to you, the canals of Venice.
Mm-hmm. I saw that on the news.
Are crystal blue.
And you can see the bottom,
which they said has never
happened.
In modern history, no one can recall seeing
and it looks beautiful.
Blue water, excuse me, in Venice.
Yeah, and it looks beautiful. Like it's sad to think that usually it's not like that, and usually that they're polluted, and it's
but the fact that how quickly a difference can be made. I think that's the big thing. And I know, and we've talked about Greta Thunberg before, so this is not the first time you've heard her on this podcast.
Go back and listen to our episode all about her.
Yes,
a little plug.
But to for her, she shut down her movements. They've looked to do it in a different way. The strike for schools on Fridays. Mm-hmm. She's taken it in a different direction, but also to be able to say, it's proved everything she's been saying that it doesn't take much. We just all have to do something, and. I mean, certainly shutting down China for 2 months is drastic, but I think it demonstrates that there's a benefit to be gained by making change, and how quickly we can make it happen.
That was a few months. Imagine if, obviously you said not as something as drastic as shutting down China, but if China took little steps, or the world took little steps, within a few years, we could have things turned around.
We'd be in a different place for sure.
Yeah, so I think that will be another huge wake-up call that people take from COVID-19 into the new world, quote-unquote, that people say will happen after this pandemic.
Yeah. Do you have any other topics you wanted to touch on, or was that pretty much it?
No, a lot of ours intersected.
Okay.
So I think that does it for me on that.
Well, I just wanted to, before I get to my high note topic, I wanted to give a shout out to a couple listeners who reached out to us last week. I know one in particular, Val, thanks for the chuckle. She was laughing hysterically at me because I could not remember the name of Burton Cummings.
Yes.
And made a point of,
letting
laughing
you know.
at me.
Yeah.
Yes, the fact that I couldn't remember, a Canadian icon like Burton Cummings. So thank you for that.
We'll have her on the podcast.
There you go. Val's invited to the podcast.
Yeah. There's not a room in the closet right now.
It'll be cozy, but we
social distancing.
Yeah, not right now anyway. But anyway, yes, we appreciate the feedback and certainly love the fact that you guys are listening and checking it out every week. And we'll go before we do. Do you want me to do the high note now, or do you want to do the reminders for everything?
We can do the reminders now.
Okay.
And just say that if you guys have any, we said this last episode, but still, if you have any recommendations for, hey, you want to see us talk about a certain couple movies, TV shows, topics in general, let us know by email or by Facebook, and we would love to tackle it and talk about it. Especially
give us some topics.
Yeah, especially when you guys maybe don't have a lot going on right now and you want something to pass the time by.
Give us something really juicy that we can take opposite opinions on or something like that.
Exactly. We haven't really had any of that yet.
No. So our email is chatspodcast@gmail.com. And once again, that's chats, CHATS, all one word with podcast, @gmail.com. And we are on Facebook, Google Play, Spotify, Apple Podcast,
and YouTube, which you can subscribe and like the videos to help get them around. Even share them on your social medias if you'd like.
Absolutely. For people who don't want to download more apps, you can just check it out on YouTube.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
So we have a high note.
Yes, we can do the high note music?
Yes.
Okay, so so along with, again, it's all COVID-19 all the time, but I came across. You think you know what mine is?
Can I guess?
You want to guess? Okay, go ahead and guess.
Is it the John Krasinski?
Yes.
Okay, I haven't seen it, so that's good because you just shared it on Facebook.
So good. Okay, so John Krasinski. Go ahead, tell everybody who John Krasinski is, Corb.
John Krasinski is best known for his role as Jim on The Office, and Steve Carell, best known for his role, arguably best known for his role as Dunder Mifflin's, manager.
Michael Scott.
Michael Scott. I just blanked on it. I was blanking on the word manager, and then I blanked on Michael Scott. But so these two, they haven't really seen each other in a while.
And I think it's just because it's the first one. I don't know if he's necessarily going to be in every one, but he is in this first one.
This is on the ladies of The Office.
No, it's on YouTube. He's his own channel on YouTube.
Oh, well, I saw it reposted. Yes.
Yeah, they did share it.
The ladies of The Office, I believe, are Jenna Fisher and another actress who became really close friends from the show.
I can't remember the actress's name, but she was the uptight one that was really attracted to Dwayne, who was Dwight.
We're just knocking the Office trivia.
But anyway, she was the accountant, the blonde lady. So she's really good friends with Angela, yes. So Angela and then the actress Jenna Fisher, they have their own little podcast. So shout out to fellow podcasters.
Yes.
But anyway, so I came upon this first thing this morning, and because I'm trying to post things on my social media that are informative
and positive.
I try not to do too much heavy because sometimes you have to do the heavy. Yeah. But for the most part, I'm trying to find, and I do a hashtag happy post, or I'll just say happy post, so people know that if you're drowning under the negativity, here's something that's a little more positive. And I came upon this, and I thought this is the bomb. This is awesome. So yeah, John Krasinski, who I'm sorry, he's a cutie. He's hot. He's done a makeshift studio. It looks like it's like a den or something in his house, and he had his daughters do like a logo, which is SGN for Some Good News. And he just started this as a lark where he reached out to his followers on his social media to say, hey, send me your good news.
Yeah.
And he was inundated. Everything from, people playing theme music for The Office on a steel drum, right through to the girl that he ended up featuring is a cancer survivor, or sorry, I shouldn't say survivor, she's a cancer warrior, and her last chemo treatment was shared.
Good.
So there's that. They do talk to, or he does talk to Steve Carell, as you mentioned, but it's a very good concept, and I shared that because I thought, you know what, we all need a moment. And if it's not working for you to get away from social media, then at least try to break up the deluge of negativity by watching something funny. And you know what? He does a really nice balance of, there's some heavy stuff out there. He doesn't ignore it or downplay it.
Yeah.
But the fact is that he puts it in such a way that, we're just, coming from such a place of we just need this good news. And I'm just so happy to share it.
It's genuine.
Yeah. And he also puts an appeal for more. Like he wants to make this an ongoing thing, which I think is what the world needs more of. So if you've got stuff, make sure you're checking out John Krasinski and maybe you can share your good news with him and share it with us. We want to hear about your good news.
And also you can ask for two more, upbeat and heartwarming people than Steve Carell and John Krasinski, who are, some of the nicest people, not only in their characters that we know very well,
they're
but
just
also
nice people.
Yeah, in general. So
and you do get some Office background scoop. They do talk about The Office for a bit. So if you like that show, get in on it.
Well, we'll share that on our Facebook along with this. Well, I think we could. But so we got a high note in.
This is like a big episode. If you're like sleeping right now, we apologize for keeping you up so long.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was a good one with a lot of just different nuances. And maybe you can tell us what you think the changes will be when we're all done, good or bad.
And
be interesting to see.
And a while down the road, we could come back and look at this. I want to,
6 months from now. So when is this? We're looking at...
This is March 30th, so practically April 1st.
Yeah, so April 1st, so we'd be looking at... I'm blanking out. So we'll say... we'll come back to this like October 1st. Because right now they're kind of looking mid to late summer for this to wrap up.
Around our 1 year anniversary.
Is it really?
Our first episode was late October, I believe.
Oh my gosh.
Like 90% sure.
Okay. So, well, we'll have to check into that. But
yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much, everybody.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. This has been me, Corbin.
And Sarah.
And thank you guys for listening, and be sure to stay tuned for our latest chats.